Hello, friends, and welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by BETDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. I'm your host, Tom Downey, and it's time for one of my favorite segments, a little mailbag action. So we'll start things off with one Johnny Lopez asking, if the Cowboys do decide to move on from Garrett, would I bump up Chris Richard? And as we discussed yesterday, actually, I'd be okay with it as I went through my top 10 coaches the Cowboys could hire in 2019. I'd be okay with it. He definitely has had a great impact on the defense. Is already calling most of the plays. The Cowboys love him. Here's my concern: who takes over on offense? That's the problem right now for the Cowboys. Maybe you do take a risk in terms of downgrading the defense, upgrade the offense if you hire an offensive coach, but you definitely interview him and you try to keep him as the DC if that's not the route you end up going. All right, next up from Andrew. Do you think we'll see more RPOs for the Lions game? And does Tavon Austin need more touches? So we'll start things off with the RPO side of things because, ideally, yeah. They've definitely run some RPOs and some package plays, but I still think you need more of them. The offense was better in Week 2, and then it fell apart in Week 3. Look, the Cowboys don't know how to use their offensive personnel. That's not using two tight end sets. That's instead spreading things out, almost using a college offense to help make things easier on Dak, because Zeke will thrive in any type of scheme. As for Tavon, yeah, sure, he's definitely been the guy that's made the most out of his touches, but I think in general you see the Cowboys have to scheme for him to get those touches. That's kind of been the issue throughout his NFL career. All right, Jake Sanders wants to know, why don't we run more no huddle? No huddle seems to do better with Dak, and he's right. You're right. I don't know if you're going to see a ton of it more because that's not what Linehan wants to do, but I think more up-tempo would be ideal for Dak and for really most of this Cowboys offense. I just think they need to find a way to have more success with that offense. I think no huddle, more 3-receiver sets, more 4-receiver sets, less 2 tight end sets would all be a lot better. So question for you guys, who should call the plays for Dallas? Now, I think it's weird to say, but I think it needs to be Jason Garrett because Linehan is not getting the job done. Garrett did a good job when he was the Cowboys OC before he took over as the head coach and even kept it for a little bit. Garrett's going to go down with the ship if things don't change. He's got to take over the offense and start calling the plays. I think I would trust him more right now than I trust Scott Linehan. All right, from @noneother on Twitter, how many losses do you think it'll take for some coaching staff moves to happen? I think a lot of them. Now, we definitely know that Garrett's on the hot seat, but here's the deal. If you fire Garrett, you're firing Linehan, I think, at the exact same time. Both those guys are going down together. So I think what you might see happen is maybe you see Linehan get fired, but I don't think that's all that likely because Garrett seems very committed to him. You're definitely not going to fire the defensive guys. Those guys have been good. And if your coach is an offensive guy and you fire your OC too, it doesn't make sense for the rest of the year. So I think what you'll end up seeing is maybe Garrett lasts the entire season because I think Dallas will still win some more games. And then in 2019, he gone. And you can already see those odds there via BETDSI. It's more likely than not, based on those odds, that Garrett is gone as the head coach before the 2019 season. I think it's a worthwhile bet. So go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys120. Get that sweet 120% deposit bonus. And put down some money on Jason Garrett to not be the Cowboys' next head coach. Because guess what? Or head coach in 2019, excuse me. Because I don't think he's going to be there, plain and simple. All right, a good one from Rob, and it kind of made me think for a second here. If Linehan gets fired, do you think the Cowboys will bring Dez back? I still think no, because I think that there was a lot more going on there than just Dez and Linehan clearly not getting along. At the same time, it would be one less hurdle, wouldn't it? And you know Jerry still loves Dez. Those two are still tight. The big issue is that Dez called out a lot of the former players, so it's not going to happen this year. I guess we can revisit it next year and see how things have changed. But even though the Cowboys clearly missed Dez as a player, neither side seems to be interested. So I still type no because I don't know if you want Dez in that locker room. You got a captain in Sean Lee that Dez called a snake. That's not a good thing. All right, film productions, next up. Will the Cowboys pull off a blockbuster trade for a receiver or tight end before the deadline? Probably not, because who are you going to get? Most teams don't trade away tight ends and receivers for nothing, and the Cowboys are not going to sacrifice, I don't think, a second, a first, or a third-round pick to go get somebody. So I'm not going to rule it out completely, but I'd be pretty surprised. All right, from Mark on YouTube. Bigger question, is Dak still the quarterback? He says hope not, and that he likes the guy from Oregon. We'll talk about the draft part here in a second, but you actually shouldn't be cheering against Dak Prescott, because the best thing that could happen to the Dallas Cowboys is that Dak reemerges and ends up establishing himself as your franchise guy and starts being the guy we saw through the first couple of games, first year or so in his rookie season. And look, it's not all Dak's fault, but he has to be better too. He has missed plays, missed throws, hasn't looked all that comfortable in the pocket either. But this is the best case scenario for the Cowboys, is that Dak is your franchise guy. Now, that's a fair question to have, especially at the end of the year. The reality is, for right now, there's not a whole lot of talk. There's not much benefit to talking about benching Dak or criticizing Dak beyond, the week in, week out stuff, because it's not Rush, it's not Mike White. This is your time for Dak. You're going to give him the rest of the year, see if he can be your guy. And then if you're drafting early, maybe you have to change your plan. So from Matt S. now, next up, is it time to start looking for Dak's replacement in the draft? Well, it depends on where you draft. Now, I still have some belief in Dak Prescott because I've seen him do good things in the past. But if you're drafting top 10, top 5, don't you have to? Now, with that in mind, here are my top 5 guys in the quarterback for 2019 in the draft for 2019 among quarterbacks, and I don't love the class overall. There's some good guys here, some guys that might not go pro. Herbert, Haskins might not declare. Herbert and Haskins are the 2 guys that I like the most, and if you're in the top 10 and one of those guys is there, and if they play like they have all year long, I think you might have to do it, because you're still kind of establishing yourself with a young, cheap quarterback. And if you're drafting top 10, that means that Dak probably didn't turn things around for you. If that's the case, maybe you do got to go get a new quarterback instead. Speaking of quarterbacks, Philly Cowboy asks, will we see Mike White this year? Maybe. I think step 1 is just getting him active each week, because he hasn't been active at all this season. Cooper Rush is your number 2. Dak, of course, is your 1, and White's your 3. So, if there are injuries, sure. If the season really gets out of hand, maybe. But I wouldn't bank on seeing Mike White, especially not any type of promoting Mike White to the starter, because that just doesn't make sense for the Cowboys right now. All right, Lawman wants to know why Zeke is the only back getting touches. Says Rod Smith should be getting his work. I've seen this quite a few times, actually, on social media, but either at me or in comment sections. I get that we like Rod Smith. He's a good player. I guess we forgot about Bo Scarborough being better than Rod Smith, like some of you people thought. And I know he's only played 10 snaps this year, but how are you going to get him on the field? You don't want to take Zeke off unless you absolutely have to. And Smith is a nice player, but you don't need to scheme to get Rod Smith touches. He's a backup. I know that the receivers and tight ends aren't great, but I still think I'd rather have Terrence Williams out there than Rod Smith, right? So I like the guy, but keep him as your backup. You don't need to find ways to get him on the ball. He's not that good of a player yet. All right, folks, I still have some Cowboys t-shirts and hats to give away, so DM me on Twitter. DM, don't at me, just DM. It's much easier for me to keep track. I've got a lot of people tweeting at me. Just DM me at WhatGoingDowney, and I'll give you the details on how to get hooked up with one of our sponsors, and then we'll give you guys a t-shirt or hat. And then once we get to 20, we'll give away some Cowboys tickets as well. So DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney if you want those details. On to some more Cowboys mailbag questions here from Oz81 Gaming. If we let go of Garrett, what are the chances that we can get Jim Harbaugh from Michigan? I don't think that Jim Harbaugh is going to leave. So that'd be cool because Harbaugh's a great coach, but I would be surprised if Harbaugh left after this year as the Michigan head coach. Now, granted, it is his 4th year, and he never stays past more than 4 seasons at any spot, but I don't think it's going to happen. So maybe you can dream about it. It'd be cool, but don't bank on Harbaugh coming to the Cowboys anytime soon. All right, Dominique says that while he's okay with the Bryce Butler signing, he asked why didn't they promote Lance Lenoir from the practice squad. Well, frankly, I just don't think Lance Lenoir is that good. He's a number 5 guy, a special teams helper. Like, that's what he is. He's not going to change this offense. He's not going to suddenly be the number 1 receiver for this team. That's not who he is. The Cowboys wanted more speed. That's why they brought back Bryce Butler. Butler gives you more of a home run threat than Lance Lenoir does. I'm not the biggest Bryce Butler fan, but I think he's a better player than Lance Lenoir. That's why they signed Butler and have kept Lenoir on the practice squad. If you guys like the shirt that I'm wearing, get one of your own at comfortable.af. Trust me, folks, you will not own a more comfortable shirt than a Mizzen and Main shirt. So get your own today at comfortable.af. They're made in America. It's perfect for America's team. All right, to Facebook now. Donnie Allen Williams says, you got a couple of these. Of course we do. Will Romo ever come back under Richard after Garrett and Linehan are fired? And I think there's another Romo question that we can get to as well because, it's cool. I get that everyone loves Tony Romo. Why do you guys want to hire an OC who's never been a play caller before and has never coached before? I know that Tony's a great football mind, and we've seen it, in play calls in terms of audibling or calling them out and predicting them during games. If you want to bring him as a quarterback's coach, sure, but he's not going to leave his cushy CBS job to come be a quarterback's coach. It just doesn't make any sense for him. So I think we have to kind of chill a bit on the Romo stuff because it's not going to happen anytime soon. And I don't want him as my OC because I have no idea how good he's going to be. That's too big of a risk. All right. Yogi Burr next up says, if the Seahawks offer ET an extension, because we always have to have an Earl Thomas question, right? Do you think he takes it or do you try the open market? So Thomas and the Seahawks are clearly not getting along. Those two guys, or I guess parties, just hate each other right now. But Thomas's number one priority is to get paid. If the Seattle Seahawks says, look, Earl, we're sorry for the way things went down. Here's $14 million a year with 60 to 70% guaranteed over 5 years. He's going to take it. That's what he wants. He wants the security and the big money and the contract. A big contract heals all wounds. How many relationships do you guys have in your life that wouldn't be cured by $70 million bucks? Every single one would be fixed. So if the Seahawks want to make an offer to Earl Thomas that's fair and gets him that big money, I think they'd find a way to make things okay. Last one here from Patrick on Facebook says, trade Sean Lee and a second to Seattle for Earl Thomas, but why? Why would Seattle want that? They have two good linebackers in Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. They don't want Sean Lee. And if you're the Cowboys, a second might be enough. Why would you throw in Sean Lee too? So I don't think it makes a lot of sense there, even though I know some of you guys have quickly turned on Sean Lee, who, when healthy, is still one of the top linebackers in the NFL. All right, folks, subscribe. Please subscribe to our Cowboys Report YouTube channel. Trying to get to the 5K subscriber mark. Have already passed the 3K mark. 4K coming up, but 5K is the big mark. Go to youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report and get subscribed here. All of our great Cowboys coverage, all in one spot. Time for a little Cowboys versus Lions preview. And this one, kind of a must-win for the Cowboys. Yeah, it's still early in the year, but you can't start the season 1-3 and expect to make a playoff push. So, it's at home for the Cowboys this week. That's why they're 3-point favorites according to BETDSI. If you think the Cowboys are going to win, go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys120. Put some money on it. I'm considering putting money on the Cowboys this week, although they kind of burned me last week. Wasn't too happy about that one. The Lions, meanwhile, fresh off that huge upset win over the Patriots. One matchup which we'll talk more about later on in the show that I want you guys to just remember right now. Cowboys offense is 31st in the NFL. It's been very bad, but the ground game we know can and should be great. The Lions are dead last in the NFL in run defense. I want you guys putting in your score predictions in the comments throughout the show. DM me on Twitter once you do that with your score prediction. Don't forget the team that wins, of course. And I'll pick one winner if you guys get it right. Send you guys some money. So, again, DM me on Twitter with your score prediction. Only one winner, so it's the first one to get the score exactly right. No duplicates. DM me on Twitter. We'll give away some money to you guys. We'll talk now about some injuries for the Cowboys, and there are some to monitor. Now, DeMarcus Lawrence popped up this week on the injury report. He's going to be fine. He was a full participant in Wednesday's practice. That means he's going to play. Xavier Woods, I think, is going to play as well. Same with Cole Beasley. Then it gets a little bit more dicey. Jeff Heath, I think he'll play. I'll list him as questionable for now, but he kind of, I think, is maybe more of a 30% chance he doesn't play, so almost kind of in between probable and questionable. Other guys who we know aren't going to play, Travis Frederick is still out with his Guillain-Barré syndrome. No timetable yet for when he's actually going to come back. Sean Lee won't be listed as out until Saturday or Sunday, but he's not going to play. That hamstring's not in good shape right now. He is going to miss at least this week, probably several weeks. And then two big question marks on the interior of the defensive line. Antwaun Woods, Malik Collins. A knee and a groin there for Collins and Woods. I don't know if they'll both play. They both might miss. I would hope that at least one plays. Otherwise, you're in really, really thin shape at DT. Let's talk now some keys to the game this week for the Dallas Cowboys. First up, look, you have got to feed Zeke. And last year, producer Brett always made fun of me for saying, oh, it's feed Zeke every single week. Kind of feel like we need a reminder, though, because we haven't really fed Zeke this year. Now, he has not been as good as he can be, and the game script has mattered, and that's why we haven't seen as much runs for Zeke Elliott. And yet he's still tied for the NFL lead in rushing yards, despite not being as good as we expect Zeke to be. And this matchup against the Lions is a good one. The NFL's worst run defense, granted it's only 3 games, but still, he should have a bit of a feast here. Hopefully the offensive line also fares much, much better. So let me know, folks, in the comments section, how many rush yards you think Zeke will have against the Detroit Lions. I think he's going to have a big one there. Oh, by the way, I love Zeke this week in FanDuel, and I'm hosting my own game, so DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney if you guys want in. I got a special promo code for you, too. We'll get you some free money on FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/chatsports. DM me. We'll get you hooked up, and if you beat me, I'll give you guys some extra money as well. So sign up with FanDuel, folks, and play Zeke this week. Trust me. All right, speaking of Zeke, the offensive line, they got to bounce back. All right, the offensive line, it's almost unfair because the offensive line is like average to okay right now. Like, it's not bad, but this offense is built around the offensive line being among the 5 best, if not the best in the NFL. That's the problem right now for this offense. It's not doing enough. You clearly miss Travis Frederick, even though Looney hasn't been bad, but he's not Frederick. And Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, even they don't quite look 100% right. I don't know what's going on with the offensive line. It has to change, though. If you're the Cowboys, you need better play from your offensive line, and that starts this week against the Detroit Lions. No surprise, you also need better play from Dak Prescott. Now, again, there's not just one thing wrong with the offense. The receiving core, the tight end, the play calling, the game plan, the O-line, and the quarterback play all share some semblance of blame. But the great quarterbacks can win in spite of that. So far, Dak hasn't done that. Again, it's not all Dak's fault, but he does need to be better. Can he get to the 200 yards passing this week? That'd be great. Like, that's the ideal thing with me for Dak. Like, can we get to 200 yards passing? Maybe not 400 because that means you're probably lost. But I just need to see Dak have more success and not be quite as hesitant in the pocket. He just doesn't seem to trust his offensive line or his receivers quite yet, which, again, it's early in the year with a bunch of new pieces. Maybe it makes some sense. But let me know, folks, how many yards you think Zeke will have against the Lions this year, or Dak will have against the Lions this week through the air. All right, 2 more keys to the game. No more busted coverages. It was an issue last week, 2 touchdowns, one against Cheeto. I'm going to blame another one against Kevon Frazier. Xavier was also involved in that first Cheeto burn. Cannot have busted coverage. The defense kind of relies more on a bend but don't break, and when you bust the coverage, you break badly. And then finally, can I get an INT? I just want one, okay? The Cowboys somehow are one of 2 teams in the NFL that have yet to force an interception this year. Give me that. This defense, guys, is good. Look at that. 3rd in yards per game, 7th in points allowed. I tried to tell you guys in advance, it's a top 10 defense, but you got to force turnovers too. And right now the Cowboys have just 2 takeaways this year. That is tied for 28th. You got to start forcing mistakes and get your offense into a great position. A nice interception sets things up much better for the offense. So give me that INT this week, please, Cowboys secondary. Also, folks, go subscribe to our Cowboys Report YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. All of our great Cowboys coverage all in one spot. Trying to get to 5K subscribers. We think everyone already has, but keep it flowing. Tell your friends. We've got some great Cowboys coverage all right there, so hit us up with that subscribe button. We'll take it out to a quick run-through of the Cowboys' projected depth charts this week. For the Lions, some minor changes. Quarterback, it's not going to change anytime soon. There is no reason to play Rush or White. They are not your franchise guy going forward. At halfback, again, no changes. Maybe you try and get some more fullback action there. Jameis Wall, he can catch and hasn't really been used in that way, which isn't a big surprise because it's Linehan, but still, got to get Zeke going this week against a bad Lions run defense. At receiver, I would not be surprised if this is the week we see Bryce Butler activated. Now, look, you guys know I'm not the world's biggest Bryce Butler fan. But I would rather, like I did last year, I would much rather have Bryce Butler active and playing and being an outside receiver than Terrence Williams. So I hope that Butler's activated this week. We'll see if the Cowboys actually do that. Beyond that, you have Cole Beasley as the slot. Hearns has been pretty quiet this year. You need Gallup to get going because he's been pretty off. Maybe you give Butler a chance because you got to get somebody to produce consistently at receiver. I don't know if that's Butler, but give him a chance here because it's not Terrence Williams. I promise you that. All right, tight end again, no changes. Rico was active again last week, and the Cowboys, Linehan, and they slapped in the face to every Cowboys fan out there, came out in a 3 tight end set because that was stupid and made no sense. Hopefully we see less tight end sets and maybe get Rico involved in the red zone just a little bit more. As I mentioned earlier, offensive line got to be better. That's a big reason why I think Dak has struggled because the offensive line, which should be elite, has been average at best, and that's not okay for the Cowboys. They have got to find a way to get going and get their offensive line back, even without Frederick, back to playing at the level that we expect, at least close enough to it. Today's show was brought to you by BETDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys120 for that sweet 120% deposit bonus. What that means is put down $100. They'll give you $120 for free for a grand total of $220 to bet with on BETDSI if you use promo code Cowboys120 at chatsports.com/bet. On to the defensive line now, where I'm going to go back to listing Taco as the starter above Randy Gregory, because the reality is that Taco is the starter on first and second downs and rundowns. Now, Gregory plays plenty. It's almost a 50-50 type split there. It's a committee at that other defensive end spot. But Gregory hasn't looked that great. Frankly, Taco's outplayed him this year, so hopefully that changes. And hopefully Gregory finally gets his sack this week. Let me know if you guys think he will. Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. I hope so, but at this point, I almost might have to wait till I see it to believe it, because he just has not made the impact that he should have beyond the stupid penalty that he took in week 3. All right, linebacker, here's a change. Sean Lee, guys, he's not going to play. So as a result, Leighton Van Esch, and base this a little bit more almost like the nickel set. When it comes to nickel, your top two guys are going to be Jalen Smith and Leighton Van Esch. Then on third downs, Damian Wilson will come in at the Sam linebacker spot, and you'll probably see more of Joe Thomas as well. Maybe a little bit of Justin March-Lord, and maybe Covington actually gets activated this week. I'm not sure if the Cowboys will do that, but that is worth watching. So speaking of Smith and LV, since they'll be your top two guys at linebacker this week, who will have more tackles? Type J for Jalen, type L for LVE. Van Esch was fantastic last week. I wouldn't be all that surprised if it was actually LVE that did it again this week. All right, on now to the defensive backs, where Byron Jones remains your #1 guy. Heath is battling an ankle injury. I think he'll be okay. Hope he is, because I don't like Kevon Frazier in coverage. Xavier Woods was okay last week. They got to get going a little bit more in that safety end, because they just were off last week, I think, thanks to injuries and Woods getting back in the mix of it. So hopefully things are okay there. But Anthony Brown, I know you guys don't like him, but he's actually been okay. He's actually been pretty good, frankly, even though I still prefer Jordan Lewis myself. All right, on to special teams, where, well, once again, things do not change. It is the exact same lineup that it'll be pretty much all year long, unless the Cowboys do decide they want that 4th-round comp pick and end up cutting Deontay Thompson. But as of right now, those are your special teams guys for the Cowboys. Speaking of special, this Mizzen and Main shirt is super special. Get one of your own at comfortable.af. You will not own, folks, a more comfortable dress shirt, or really any shirt, than a Mizzen and Main shirt. Get yours today, comfortable.af. Trust me, it's worth it. All right, time now for a key matchup, and I have hinted at it all show long. It is the Cowboys offensive line versus the Lions defensive line. Back to basics. You have got to run the football. If the Cowboys can't move the ball in an impressive fashion on the ground against the Lions, blow it all up, because this Lions run defense is not good. It is dead last in the NFL in yards allowed on the ground, and this Cowboys offensive line, even without Frederick, even with Sewell still getting used to playing in the NFL, even with Tyron and Zach Martin not quite being themselves yet, they have got to move the football against the Lions. They need to be able to pound the ball up the middle and get Zeke going early and often. This is not a fear-inspiring Lions front four. The Cowboys offensive line should win this matchup, just like they should have last week, and it should result in a big success on the ground for Zeke Elliott. All right, folks, you see it right there. Get your score predictions in the comments section for Cowboys versus Lions. Let me know what you guys think the score is going to be. I assume most of you have the Cowboys winning, but let me know what you think the score is going to be in this one. In the meantime, we'll bring up what Lena and I have, producer Lena have as well. Again, Cowboys 3-point favorites in this one. I've got the Cowboys winning 20-13. Lena has the Cowboys winning 17-10. Again, let me know what you guys think. And then once you guys get your score predictions in the comments section, send them to me on Twitter, @WhatGoingDowney. If you guys get it exactly right and you're the first to get it, we'll send you guys some money. But only if you DM me on Twitter. Don't just tweet it at me. Don't put it in the comment section. You have to DM me on Twitter. It's way easier for me to keep track of everything. So do that, folks, and we'll see you guys after the game for some highlights between the Cowboys and the Lions.